that law was actually irrelevant to what he was doing. He went to jail anyway. As I've been saying, someone like him would go to jail anyway.
You gotta be kidding me.
Nope.
That law was irrelevant. The basis of the law is what allowed him access. Because if he had shown up as a man, do you think he would have gotten access to the woman's shelter?
No.
Question mark.
Dressing female is what got him in. Whether there was a transgender rights law on the books or not was immaterial. He went to the door, was dressed female, apparently, and said, I'm a woman.
Wrong. Here's the article which I will share with you. A biological man claiming to be transgender. He wasn't even dressed as a woman. He just claimed to be, but no question mark there. That's just a statement. Here's the other question. Noel Crompton Hall. Familiar with that name?
Nope.
Nope. That's a prisoner in an Australian prison. He was sentenced to 22 years for the 87 murder of a hitchhiker. Once in prison, he began claiming to be a woman. He demanded to be transferred to the women's jail. The Australian authorities agreed that Hall was now a woman and moved him to the women's prison in August of '99. He quickly gained a reputation as a sexual predator. He was only in the women's prison 3 months, but was charged with raping his cellmates. You never heard of him, but I think that this bill would enable people like him to gain access. Paul Witherspoon, probably not familiar with that name either. Nope. 1990, convicted in 1990 for sexually assaulting one teenage girl, registered sex offender. In 2012, however, very recently, he was spotted wearing women's clothing going into the women's bathroom in Dallas, where he would have access to young girls. He was ticketed by a Dallas policeman. But Witherspoon claims to be transgender and says that he has every right to use the bathroom with women and girls. He said it is discriminatory to deny him the right to use women's facilities. Another example of a sexual predator using this law. Again, I'm not worried about the transgender people, never have been. I'm worried about giving access to pedophiles to gain access by using this law.
You didn't tell us the punchline on that. Free man or in jail?
Ticketed. Ticketed. Claims he has every right to use it. So not in jail. So in other words, it's only is your premise that it's only after they go to jail that it's a problem?
No.
After they've assaulted people?
It's my premise that this legislation does not produce that kind of problem, that people who want to pretend to be female, with or without a law like this, may try to do that, and with or without a law like this, that kind of people are going to get convicted.
After the fact.
Well, yeah, this is a country where we only convict people after the fact.
Right. But this
and
is also
I don't think
a country,
you have a bill in to change that.
But it's also a country where common sense should prevail, and maybe we shouldn't have a law that just holds the door open and says, come on in, and we're not even allowed to question their motive. And you cannot tell me that your bill doesn't say that you can't question their motives. The bill is pretty specific about gender identity and expression being defined as a person's actual or perceived gender-related identity. It's clear. You keep denying that it's clear, but the language is very clear what it says.
Well, I can and will tell you that the bill does not prevent someone from questioning the facts, just as someone who says, I'm a minority, or today I'm a woman, or I'm of this religion or that religion, people can question that. People do it all the time. So yeah, I can say this bill doesn't prevent someone from questioning whether things are in fact true. That's true under any bill.
In all the circumstances that you just cited, have any of those questions been added to somebody questioning that, which you just cited? Would that be added to the hate crime statute like this is?
Well, you mean like selecting a victim on basis of race? Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's in the hate crime statute.
No. So But you just said they can question it, so you think that, okay, I got you. All right.
Well, someone could say, I did not assault so-and-so because I thought they were black. I assaulted them for some other reason. People are constantly saying, oh, I didn't select my victim because he or she is gay. People say that all the time. And whether that was or wasn't their motive gets disputed all the time.
So simple question then. What about, just a slight side note here, what about sports teams, MMA, which we just legalized, things like that? If somebody was transgender or claimed, self-identified as a woman, would they be able to fight, and they're a man, biological man, but really, would they be able to say, I'm going to fight with the women and make a lot of money?
Well, first of all, I didn't legalize MMA. You might be able to say we did, but it wasn't me.
But the majority did.
Yes, okay. I'm just making clear in case anyone's watching and thinks I voted for that bill. I didn't. But yes, joining a sports team, if it is covered by the human rights law, gender identity and expression would be the determining factor in how that sports team can consider your gender. Yes.
Thank you.
As it is in many, many parts of New York State and the country.
Read the last section.
This act shall take effect on the 30th day.
The clerk will record the vote. Mr. Tatone to explain his vote.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Yeah, having heard this debate for so many years, it's still very disheartening and disappointing that the focus continues to be on the bathrooms. And, for those parents, particularly the moms of transgender kids throughout this state, I just want to, first of all, thank them for their love of their children, for allowing them to be who they truly are, despite the genitalia that they happen to have been born with, and to assure them that it truly is a minority of those of us in this chamber who really find their children to be so offensive, quote-unquote dangerous, that would actually equate them with rapists and other really unsavory characters. And just to the moms there, particularly one day after Mother's Day, know that it's not all of us who think this of your children, that we do think that they are entitled to their happiness, to equality, to live their lives in a non-judgmental, non-discriminatory way. So, I'm voting yes on this bill again, but I'm doing it this year because I just want to say Happy Mother's Day to the parents of all New York State transgender children in this state.
Mr. Tatone in the affirmative. Ms. Peoples-Stokes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to explain my vote. Much like the microbeads legislation that we passed here some years ago, Mr. Speaker, in the Assembly, that could never, ever get passed through our partners on the Senate side. This sort of legislation is happening already in some counties and some communities. In the city of Buffalo, it has been law since 2002 when a city employee needed access to a restroom. And the city council and the mayor then saw it fit to make that available to her. And so I think that sometimes we get in our own way in the state of New York, and folks at home get it right. If there has not been any of the incidences that were explained on this floor by my colleagues on the other side of the aisle in the city of Buffalo since 2002, I doubt that we will have that concern. People who are wanting to break the law, they'll break the law whether you create a law for them or not. And so I do not think that this whole population of people should be assigned to be criminals just because a few people have already done so. With that, Mr. Speaker, I withdraw my request and vote in the affirmative.
Ms. Peoples-Stokes in the affirmative.
explain my vote. and
Ms.
thank-
Seawright, I'm sorry, we didn't recognize you. Go right ahead, Ms. Seawright.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today to explain my vote and thank Chairman Gottfried on sponsoring this important piece of legislation prohibiting discrimination based on gender identity. We can all agree that all people should have equal protections under New York state law, and I'm proud to cast my vote in the affirmative. Thank you.
Ms. Seawright in the affirmative.
To explain my vote.
Hold on, excuse me. You- If you're going to explain your vote, you need to have turned your light on. The majority leader is powerful, but not that powerful. Mr. Levine.
Thanks. Maybe the years I spent practicing in front of federal judges gave me an annoying habit of trying to set the record straight. And I want to do that in at least two instances in response to some of the issues that were mentioned by some who are voting against this bill. First of all, the concept that one's gender identity is a matter of whim or fancy is just beyond the preposterous. Secondly, listening to this debate, you'd think there have been hundreds of transgender people arrested in bathrooms for doing things illegally. I just checked Snopes and other reliable sources. What a boogeyman. What a ridiculous, condescending, demeaning concept to advance. I'm going to vote for this, and I'm voting for this as one who is the father of a daughter, and I have a granddaughter. I want them to live in a world of fairness. I want them to live in a world where one's worth, one's character depends on one's individuality. And finally, I will not tolerate state-sanctioned or state-enabled discrimination against transgender people. And this is the final remark I've got to make. I want to thank Dick Gottfried, the sponsor of this bill, for his preternatural, and I wish I had these qualities. I don't, Richard. But your patience, your forbearance, your restraint, your composure, and equanimity are amazing. And I thank you for fighting for what's right. I'm delighted. I'm withdrawing my request, and I'm voting in the affirmative.
Mr. Levine in the affirmative. Mr. Skoufis.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to echo my colleagues' applauding of the sponsor of this bill. I will be voting in support of it. You know, if I was offered a chance to ask a few questions of my colleague before, I was prepared to ask, where are all the memos of opposition from the women's groups in this state? Where are all the memos of opposition from the various domestic violence groups in this state? If this is such a danger to victims of domestic violence and women and victims of rape, where are all the memos of opposition? Likewise, if this is such a danger to society, where are all the memos of opposition from law enforcement groups in this state? I have not seen a single one from any of them. And one last remark and correction. Someone whose name is Christopher Hambrook was brought up before, and I wish I'm able to verify these things a little bit quicker. I would have gotten up and asked the gentleman to yield before. He was found guilty, as the sponsor responded, of sexually harassing someone, claiming to be transgender, and getting into a women's shelter. This same person pled guilty to sexually harassing a woman in a women's shelter in February of 2012 as well, a separate incident. The Ontario transgender law was passed and signed in June of 2012. So this other incident happened prior to the transgender law being signed in Ontario. But perhaps my colleague also blames that future law on him perpetrating that crime as well. So I vote in favor of this bill. This is a bill about human rights, and I encourage my colleagues to do the same. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Skoufis in the affirmative. Are there any other votes? Announce the results.
Ayes 81, noes 46.
The bill is passed. Mr. Morelli.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Do you have any housekeeping and resolutions to take up?
Certainly, on behalf of Ms. Joyner, Assembly Bill Number 7500, Assembly Bill recalled from the Senate. Clerk will read the title of the bill.
An act to amend the correction law.
Motion to reconsider the vote by which the bill passed the House. Clerk will record the vote. Clerk will announce the results. The bill is before the House and the amendments are received and adopted. On behalf of Mr. Farrell, Bill Number 7292B, Assembly Bill recalled from Senate. Clerk will read the title of the bill.
An act to amend the state finance law.
Motion to reconsider the vote by which the bill passed the House. Clerk will record the vote. Clerk will announce the results.
Ayes 136, noes 0.
The bill is before the House. The amendments are received and adopted. Numerous resolutions, Mr. Morelli. We will take them up in one vote. On the resolutions, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Resolutions are adopted. Mr. Morelli.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I now move that the Assembly stand adjourned until 2:30 p.m. on Tuesday, May 10th, tomorrow being a session day.
The Assembly stands adjourned.